Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we are going to paint a UAP, what I used to call a UFO, but they keep changing the names of things. This is an unidentified aerial phenomenon. That stuff's been breaking the news a lot lately, and I wanted to do a step-by-step, something that you could paint at home that was very beginner-friendly, that was kind of silly, that had easy techniques to learn, that you would just enjoy doing with your friends or by yourself. Is one of those kind of lighthearted projects that as artists we can do to sort of lift our spirits and have a little giggle in the world, because art doesn't have to be all serious all the time. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's never serious all the time.
No.
So he really enjoys this. He's very, actually, you should thank him. This was his suggestion. We were watching the news and we saw an article about some poor people having their backyard crashed in and their 911 call, and all of it got us kind of our imagination. So I was like, you should paint a UFO. And he's like, wait, it's a UAP. And then he filled me in on all the stuff that was going on. And I was like on the History Channel?
It's like crazy, man.
No, it's happening. Okay, I'm going to say this right now at the beginning. Don't unsubscribe. I'm a really good art teacher. I'm going to explain this step by step. But I just want to say this between you and me. Lean in. What if the History Channel has not been wrong and there really are mermaids and these UFOs where ancient aliens was everywhere, and they weren't just like the made-up channel? Like, they were like, no, we're the History Channel and we're trying to tell you there are mermaids and there are aliens and they're happening right now. I'm going to feel really bad because I made fun of it for years. And I'm going to be like, sorry, guys. I just thought you went the way of the Learning Channel. And it was like something new. But I don't know. Anyways, if fun and goofy paintings that are beginner friendly are of interest to you, and if you've ever wanted to paint an alien aircraft with a little tractor beam that could suck up a cow, I've got that painting right now for you, and I'm explaining it to you step by step. Now, let me go over some of the stuff with you that I have. I used in this titanium white fluid acrylic paint. Do you have to have this exact brand? You really don't. You could use craft paint, or you could thin your white paint. And I have a whole video on how to splatter stars, because I do a dot technique and a splatter technique. I also use a fan brush. I've got this number 4 Raphael fan brush. If you have the Art Sherpa number 4, that's a good size for this. We're just doing little fan brush pine trees, or you could just do them with a little brush, make the little things out. It doesn't have to be with the cool fan technique. I've got a little 1/4-inch angle brush. I used a nice 3/4 to do some upward stuff. So I had these two in there. I got really into my little detailer. I had a splatter tool. Looks like a toothbrush, and it isn't. It's an actual brush. Some people still have those brushes for my set. And what's cool about that is that you could also just use a stiff brush. So it'll be okay. Just don't use it on your teeth again. To paint the whole background black, I use this number 30, but you don't have to have this brush at all. And I don't think I used any T-square. I don't know why I picked that up. So that's, oh, I know what I was looking for. This. I sketch in with this chalk. This is a Taylor's chalk tool. You could just use chalkboard chalk. Let's look at the rest of the materials that I use, colors and canvas, and we'll hop right on in. So today's surface, I am using an 11 by 14 canvas. I wanted more scale for this. I have the word true out there, but I also have a heart to it. So I could be wishing for true love in your life, or you could also be wishing that the truth is out there. So that's my wish or intention, that we have truth in our life. I've got the colors right now: Cad yellow medium, Cad red medium, phthalo blue, Mars black, burnt sienna, yellow ochre. You can sometimes use yellow oxide. They're pretty interchangeable, so either one of those colors. And titanium white. Shall we throw up a step, sir? Get into our
first step.
Step 1 in our, what's called? It's not a UFO anymore. It's called a UAP.
UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yep.
Although apparently they're not just aerial anymore.
That's right. Sometimes they're aquatic, but I'm not painting that. You get the aerial phenomenon because, you know, I come from the time when the guy was making a mashed potato mountain to talk about the aliens and his encounter from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now they got 29 kinds of encounters. Can't have it. Now, what I did there is I just put black paint out, and I'm going to paint my whole surface black. I did it from the tube, and you don't have to do it that way. It just keeps my stuff tidy and neat. Just an easy way of doing it. You can also buy these canvases painted black already, and sometimes they get on sale, and they're often a really good canvas. Not always, but often. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just adding water. The brush I'm using is a number 30 Simply Simmons. But again, this whole first step is just painting the canvas black. But because this is a step-by-step real-time lesson, you get the privilege of watching me paint the canvas black.
Right?
You should feel very special that you get to see that happen. It doesn't need to be a perfect black. It can even be streaky because of the way that we're layering this painting. And I'll show you this brush real well at the end of the step here before we move on. I'm just making sure it's all kind of on there. Don't want to splatter. Oh, I just splattered a ton of black paint all across to the left. That's okay. We didn't need those cables for you to paint anyways. It's super fine. All right, so here's the brush. This is a number 30 Simply Simmons. Just a big, bright, just a big chunky brush. Oh, and I got black splatters all over my palette too. So it was a messy paint. That's
It is
okay.
messy.
That happens sometimes. I'm not worried about it. It won't actually mess with my end outcome, so I'm not too disturbed. I just rinsed it out and wiped it off with a paper towel. Now, as we go on with our black surface, here's the thing you need to know at home. Put me on pause. If you're painting with me, put me on pause. Whether you're doing it live at a premiere or on a replay, put me on pause until your canvas is dry before you hit play, okay? And that'll keep us painting together through the temporal magic of YouTube and video. So I have my coffee, and I'm going to sip it, and then we're going to go on to the next step. Because I need a little coffee for this new reality.
New realities.
The new reality. All right, I'm going to come here with a tool called the T-square, and I'm going to take about the lower third of the canvas, and I'm going to just take a chalk line. This is a Dritz chalk tool, but you could just use any chalk, like the kind you use on chalkboard. This isn't really specific to the end result. I just want to say down here is ground for my UAP to land, and up here is sky where maybe it came from. Or maybe it came from another dimension, because they seem to be in an argument about all that, don't they, lately? The theys that are they. Now, the trick to this is I'm going to be using a 3/4 inch angle brush. You could use a 1 inch. You could use a 1/2 inch. I'm going to go this big just so that I have a little control. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet. And I'm going to mix some white onto here and a smidge of my phthalo blue. If you want to, you can get a little cad yellow in there. And I'm going to just sort of come up from the bottom, going upward. These are some upward lights. I want to be sort of vertical with those, what I'm trying to do. These are sort of like Aurora coming up, aren't they? It's going to give us some neat effect. It's a place to start. You can also come on the edge of the brush and come up too. So there's a lot of ways to get this, but we're just starting this. Putting some lights up. These are going to be peeking out from behind the trees. Again, just a little blue and white. And there's trees here, so you don't have to be too worried about this up front. I'm just making sure it's got that beginning coverage. We're just starting this. Just getting the idea that there's light coming up from the ground. Now I'm going to take a little more of my yellow and my blue together in kind of a crazy little green. And I'm going to just brush down and up. See how I'm kind of going up and down?
Yeah.
So that's some more kind of Aurora effect.
Yeah, it kind of does. Got a
little bit. I don't want to worry too much right here. That's not going to be too much of what I'm going to be concerned about. Maybe some little short marks up there. We're just making little bits. Just little marks in the sky of like kind of glowing lights. Doesn't look too bad. Let's call that a step. All right. Now the other thing that I can do is I can come back with black. Back into what I have. See how I'm doing?
I do.
Coming around that, and that sort of softens some of those effects. It also can deepen some of the black of the sky. Get a little bit. I'm still on my angle brush, and I'm just coming across on the flat. Just brushing down. Just making that look a little better. Okay, we're going to dry again. We're going to dry again, and we'll come back and I'll show you what you do next. So I have here my fan brush. This particular painting, I'm going to use the fan brush in a lot. I've got some nice sort of under architecture that I quickly painted out. And so I can get in with my fan brush. This one happens to be a number 4 Raphael Artini brush. I'm going to go ahead and get a little white loaded on here. It's pretty stiff. And I'm going to sort of come over what I've already painted. I can come on the edge of the brush if I need to, kind of raising up some little white lights, and then also on the heavy down. But the original stuff that I worked out there with my angle really lets me have something to follow. I can come in and get a little of that green into it. And even come up this way. I'm just trying to make it nice and bright over here. And we're letting it dry brush and blend in. Little blue. A little bit wet. I do recommend having a good fan brush in your brush bucket. Especially for stuff like this, it just makes it so much fun and easy.
I like that brush.
Yeah, just playing with it, just going up. I know I've got a nice little UFO that I've got to have coming out of the dark. And I'm just giving a lot of light to it. That's a little wetter than I'd want, so I'm going to come and just dry that off on my paper towel and come over.
Crazy, all the UFOs in the news.
It has been a bit of news with the UFOs lately, hasn't it? And not the regular news, not that questionable news.
It's news.
Like local news and stuff has been capturing it. You're like, wait, that's going on in somebody's backyard. That's crazy. I saw that one happen in Vegas. That was crazy.
Uh-huh. It's just interesting that NASA's talking about it now.
Yeah, NASA had that big meeting, and they cleared up a lot of stuff, but, you know, not everything ended up being cleared up.
They're like, hey, we got to investigate this as scientists.
Scientifically.
We must.
Because everybody's got a cell phone now. We don't have a good cover story for that anymore. All right, I'm just adding a little blue to it. It gives it that little bit of a celestial kick.
Yeah, it does.
Notice that these are very up and down. They're uneven, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then I can even come here and be a little more curled in my brush strokes, and that kind of makes it sort of softer.
Oh yeah, it makes a little sky-like stuff.
Just a little bit there. I'm curling then. I'm just painting with it. It's just okay. And just remember, you can come back with black at any time, so it's not like you can't change anything up in any way that you need to. Like if I want to come back through and break any of that up with black, all I got to do is load up black on my brush and be like, up and down. See, so it's very easy to take out anything you don't like. And I've got to, I think, bring this down a little bit because I want room for my spaceship. Just making sure I've got a little spot in there. Down, just making uneven little shapes. The sky be wild at night, right? Now let's dry everything. Dry, 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 dry. So I'm going to want to put some stars out, and there's a couple of ways that I will do that. First, I'm going to take a detail brush. This is a number 1 monogram liner, and I'm interestingly enough going to dip the back of the brush in, and I'm going to make some well-placed kind of big spot stars. I don't want to do too much work below my tree line. I know I'll probably lose a star or 2 below the tree line, but it's just a good idea to give yourself some pretty focuses of stars before you do a splatter. And you'll notice if you do dots, they will size out bigger and smaller. Okay, put this to the side for just a second. Now I'm going to use a tool. It's going to look a lot to you guys like a toothbrush. It is not. It's an old brush that I used to make. I don't make it anymore. I'll probably make it again, but you could use a stiff brush like this to make it go. And I'm going to flick. If you've never done this technique, I have a whole video on how to do it. So that's how I add some stars to my starry night skies. To do anything else with this, though, it really has to be dry before you can move on. And it can take a minute to dry these thicker paint dots of stars, so give yourself a second. So I'm going to take my chalk tool again, and I'm going to make a little ellipse right here. That's a squish circle. I'll make a vertical line, and then make another little curve that's sort of the same as this curve. These two curves should match up. Then I'm going to bring a little ellipse coming from the center, kind of coming out here. Then a little bit there, upward. I'm designing spacecraft here, guys.
I think it's pretty good.
I don't know if it's worthy of flight, but we're designing it. Come here, and there we go. A little curved up there. Another kind of little parallel curve. And then I think, you know, a viewing deck.
There you
You
go.
gotta have an observatory if you're gonna be like flying through space. And then I'm gonna also talk about some sort of like tractor beam action. Kind of coming out. Now, to work this, I will probably use my number 1 monogram liner. Let's call this a step, sketching it in, and then we'll have sort of painting it in as its own other step. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit of my white paint sort of on here. I'm just going to use white to sort of sketch out these lines. You could use a Posca paint pen. And that would also be okay. A little bit of a little ellipse happening here. A little bit of an upward sketch. Something kind of coming across. Maybe some dots there. Some little vertical dots. I like to curve them out towards the angle that they're going.
Little radial kind of dot things.
Yeah. Little downward little triangles. These could be like little viewing ports.
Where we come to look at the cows.
Yes, cow viewing centers.
Mm-hmm. They speak moo here.
I ascribe to the Far Side version of the universe where cows are the extraterrestrials.
They're just visiting us.
Just here going what goes on. Just some downward triangles. I'm not trying to... This is supposed to be a fun painting, so, you know, don't make it a not fun painting. We're going to do so much dry brushing here. I promise you, like, these lines just end up being sort of, you know, part of the... Well, I definitely want to have like a bright spot of light that could be coming out of that before I get into anything else there. All right, that looks pretty good. It's a little sketched in Alien Spaceship. It's not too serious at this moment. It's a little the Jetsons, but you know.
I like it.
When you live is when you live. When you grow up is when you grow up. So in this step, we don't really need to do anything different. We're going to take our fan brush again. New step. And I'm going to load it with black paint. And I think this is a good size, the number 4. And I'm going to come up here. Tap, 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 tap. And then I'm going to do the little fan brush technique for a little pine tree that's there. Isn't that nice? Got a little pine tree silhouette. Another little one that's here. I'm going to use my half brush, not the full brush, to make a slightly smaller tree. That's looking pretty good. It's been a minute. I'm going to come over to the far side and make a little matching tall tree. And it's just a back and forth. I find that if I want the branches to curve up, if I slightly curve up the handle of my brush, it just makes that a much easier and then it can have another little friend come out here maybe. And again, I use the half brush if I just want a little bit less of a tree. Now down here, I'm just going to do little short sort of upwards. A little more heavily loaded with pigment. I'm not wanting it to be watery. It kind of gives me those little lines of trees. And I can thicken any of them out with just a little bit of my brush going sideways. Do the same thing over here. Just a little fun painting of some visitation.
Just some tourism, international,
Interdimensional
something.
tourism just kind of going on there, just real quick. You know, maybe just kind of fill this out a little bit. It's not too bad. All right, let's look at all of that and see what we think. It's not terrible. It's not awful. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and a little bit of my blue and some white. And I am going to maybe even some more white. Maybe tap a little light on the inside of my little trees. See what I'm doing? Just a little bit of alien light. Bit of alien light. A little bit of alien light, mostly on the inside of those. That's what's going to give it that like feeling of a reflection, right? And it's the yellow green glow that really does it too. I'm just using my fluid white paint that's here.
It really does.
Just something a little fun you can do to add up and enjoy that little process. All right, let's look at it overall. See if we got, oh, look, we got little glowing trees.
It really does, yeah.
Now, just real quick, I'm going to load up and just kind of paint out my stars in the ground because they don't belong there. Like you do. I've got a brush in hand and I can totally do that. I want to dry everything thoroughly before I even do the next part. So let's dry everything super thoroughly. So I want to add a little bit of a glow down here. And to do that, I'm going to take my angle brush again. I'm going to load on the edge here with my titanium white. This is the 3/4 inch. And I'm going to go ahead and demark a little cone of light coming out. And then I'm also going to brush this down coming out of the ship. Can you see how I'm doing? Just kind of a radial sense of light that's coming down. And then I can even, with my brush on the edge, make some brighter sort of beams of so we still can see the trees a little bit behind it. We're going to allow that to dry. And let's call this, I don't have to dry anything here because it kind of dry brushed out. I'm going to take a little bit of my CAD red and my...
Did you want to call it a step before we went on this one? Because you almost said so.
I thought I did.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I thought I said step. I'm sorry.
That's right. I just want to make sure.
I thought I said we needed a step.
Okay, good.
But we don't need to dry.
That's good. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of my orange into my yellow ochre, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to brush back and forth underneath my light with my brush on the angle, just a little bit of lit up dirt. Let's come in. I'm going to grab a little bit of my burnt sienna. And then maybe even I'll grab a little of my yellow and let's get some white. Kind of back and forth here. at that center. A little bit of that just sort of coming down there. Now I can always come back, right? Let's say I take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my black. I can blend kind of from the outside going in. See how I'm doing?
Yes.
So it gives you a nice sort of gradation. I'll rinse this and put this to the side. The other thing I can do is I can get a little bit of my white. And I'm going to just wiggle a little, just some light that might be happening out there. Just a little back and forth, just a little something a little playful. Now we do just like, oh, it's a little light. Maybe come up here with some little striations. I'm just grabbing that yellow that I had. Just talking about the way this might be lighting up that down there, just for fun. Now, if these are dry up here, I'm going to take my CAD yellow. Actually, I might paint them in something bigger. Let's call this a new step.
That seems like a good idea.
Let's call it a new step. All right. Step 11. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch angle brush. You could just use any brush that you have a good sense of control with. I'm going to come here and over my triangle, I'm going to just make some square little marks. I'm going to write over those yellows here. And let's come up over our little kind of dome here and maybe on the left half mark up a little bit of that yellow there. I can always come back with some black. Kind of create some shading if I need it. Get a little bit of my white on there. Just working that out. This is dry now. Okay, we got that there. I'm going to get a little bit of my yellow and my red. I'll make kind of an orange. And I'm going to brush down from the top, coming down a little bit of that orange. And then I'm going to just dry brush a little yellow over that. And you can see how just doing the white marcations really helped us be able to get this light effect. Just brush it down, just a bit of yellow. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow back to that in that center. But go ahead and get a little white on my brush. And I'm going to just, this is the angle brush, this is my 1/4 inch angle brush, and I'm just going to do some more focused little light beams going down. And I'm going to just tap a little, this is like maybe like a little more glittery right here. Right, just a little bit on the toe, just a little more. Ooh, where's Mulder?
And Scully,
Where's Scully? Yeah. You know how old we are by the fact that we're like, where's Mulder and Scully? The truth is out there. And we're telling it to you right now. All right, I'm going to take my little round brush. Let's call this a new step.
All right.
And I'm going to go ahead and come kind of underneath my little capsule here with this black. Just to kind of define that little line. As you do. And I'm going to come here Maybe come under there. Like I find sometimes coming back with like little structural lines in black also kind of implies that architecture of the spaceship, which mine is the spaceship that on this planet is the equivalent of somebody tying a bunch of balloons to their lawn chair and seeing where they can get. These are the aliens that I believe are visiting us. These lawn chair balloon aliens. That's why stuff is crashing. A lot.
Yeah.
You know, stuff crashes a lot. I don't
In
know
people's
if y'all
backyards, I
noticed.
think it was more of a like, uh-oh, we gotta like change a tire and we'll see on our
No,
way.
I'm just saying that's some really like sus stuff. Like how often these things are crashing. Like you would think from Roswell on, like they would make improvements in the drive or fix whatever. Like I don't know what's going on. I'm just saying this makes this. That's the explanation. If you think this is the equivalent of extraterrestrials who like got a lawn chair and tied some balloons to it to see how far up in the sky they could go, because we have that as humans. Like, so you know, I believe that you could have that as in sort of a alien kind of capacity, right? I think that's probably super true and plausible as you go. All right, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to take my cad red and my cad yellow together. I'm going to make a nice bright orange, and I'll go ahead and get some brown in it. All right, and I'm going to come just across the top, and I'm going to sort of brush down just across the top and brush down between my little segments here. As you see, I'm going. And then I can go ahead and get right into my black and come across. Like I love taking the orange into the black. Can kind of trim that line a little bit. Trimming the line just means that instead of what I'm doing is I'm coming back. There we go. And I'm bringing up that black paint. Isn't that cool shading? It's a kind of fun way to get some interstellar shading. This is Interstellar Patina.
This is not a rust bucket. This is just interstellar patina.
Right. That's how it works for me, man. And I'm going to just get a little more black on here, I think, and really, really trim that. I may have to put that line back a little thinner. I just want to get it a little trimmed. I'm going to get a little of my brown into this, and then I think I will come along the little bottom, but then I'm going to do little flicks up. See what I'm doing? I'm flicking upwards. Go ahead and get a little more red and yellow in my brush. Just painting in as I go. I find my spaceships. They're very experiential for me.
Yeah.
They're like stream of consciousness, intergalactic space designing. You might wonder, do I believe? I don't know.
I have to say I believe. I think that the numbers are stacked to the point where it's like there's definitely something else going on there, but it's just bigger than us, I think.
Bringing a little white across here too, just kind of improving it. But now you'll notice I'm kind of like doing a thick line and then breaking it and then doing a thick line, which is in and of itself a little architectural.
Cool, yeah.
And I'm going to do a little bit of white in the center of those yellows there. Because, I like making the crazy lights. I do. It's fun for me. I'm going to come across here and make a little kind of glass squiggle. That's a glass squiggle if you didn't know. Maybe another little dot in there. And then definitely in the center where my light is coming out, I'll add a little bit of a white. And some more lines going down. It's a very powerful tractor beam. Don't underestimate the power of my cobbled together lawn chair tractor beam. It'll pick up a cow. It'll fully pick up a cow. For those of you that are Midnight Burger fans.
Yep.
Hopefully this is extra fun for you. Because I feel like this is the level of spacecraft we're thinking of. This is, in my mind, in that universe, this is the level of spacecraft that I'm thinking of. I could do a diner. I could do the diner. I could do that.
I could do the diner too.
I'm going to come like on the far side here with a little bit of a dash line on the ellipse. It'll just help it feel like more like an ellipse. All right. I very much like that. The other little touch that you can do if you want is you can take a little bit of your yellow, right? And go around some of your stars.
Oh, give them just a little color.
Yeah, sometimes that's nice on anything that's galactic. I know this is like just a fun painting, but knowing that you can do that can be a big thing. I'm just taking my angle brush and loading it with my CAD yellow, nothing specific. Okay, it's just the CAD yellow. And because yellow is such a transparent color, it glazes, and I'm just kind of doing some little reflecties. And see how that does make that feel like those stars are glowing? That's an extra little level of space. The final frontier. These. I'm not going to do the whole thing. Don't worry. One, because I don't know if I'll get content ID'd. And that's a very specific and recognizable kind of intro. Like, it wouldn't be like, oh, it's a mistake. They would be like, no, we know what you were doing. And I'd be like, yeah, I know I was doing it. I just didn't think I'd get in trouble for it because you guys like Star Trek fans, right? And they'd be like, yeah, but not like steal our stuff. And I'd be like, oh, that's super reasonable. I should have thought of that before I did anything. But you can see I just sort of, I gave our stars some glow. And the other thing that you can do on Star Glow that's sort of also fun, I'll get a little bit of white here. Our little circles like that. So there's a couple of ways to do it, right? I'm going to just glow these just a little bit more. I just want them to be, just add a little white to that. Those are very glowy, I think. Lots of different glows. And that's what you want in life. Feel like I nailed it.
Yeah,
it's just a fun look. There's some weirdness happening. I didn't know if you were like me, if you've been catching the news, and you were like, "What's landing in Vegas? What's happening?
What is happening?
What's happening out there with these UAPs?" And I'm gonna be like, "I don't even know, man." Let me get a little bit of a glowing signature here, using my number 1 and. I'll do some more of these. I think every once in a while just a fun, silly painting for fun is a good idea, and not everything has to be super serious. Sometimes we just need to have a good time. Maybe I'll do a series of good time things like Sasquatch and Yetis and Nessies and aliens and all that stuff. But just, good time stuff, like just for chill, for fun. Okay. We come back, I'm going to tell you what you do next. So you've done this. You've painted your UA. What is it? UAP.
UAP.
UAP, which used to be a UFO, Pluto used to be a planet, and they just like to, math used to carry one, and I don't know, things just change. If you live a minute, they just change. Maybe you're young enough, you haven't noticed that yet, but for those of us that have been here for a second, you just kind of eventually roll in and you're like, what are we calling it now? Okay. Right. But it's really the same thing, except you're pretending to acknowledge it just a little bit more because the pilots are freaking out. So I don't know what's out there. I really don't. I don't have an answer to that. I've been trying to listen to the scientists. I've been following what NASA has to say about unidentified aerial phenomenon. My dad saw something when he was young with my mom that they don't have any way to explain. And my dad isn't imaginative in that way. He comes from Rawlins. So, like, if there's a way to underplay that, like, if somebody from Rawlins, Wyoming is like, I saw an unidentified flying object and it was aliens, it probably was. They're probably just like, because no rancher is going to roll up on you and be like, what I'd like to do is be made fun of for the next 5 years. They're not saying it. And that's my theory.
Right.
That's my personal theory that salt of the earth people, if they come in and they're like, my cows all got sucked up in a space vacuum, their cows got sucked up in a space vacuum. That's not, you don't ever want to go to the local like feed and tack and be like, my cows got abducted. So, my dad says some weird stuff. I've seen people who are credible that have seen some weird things. And so I don't know. It's possible. It's a big universe. There are a lot of stars. The Kepler 22b is out there, right? So like there's certainly at least one star that could be like ours. And mathematically there's probably more. And I hope it's a positive thing. It's a good thing. And anyways, I thought we could do a painting about all this weirdness that's going on and try to find the light, joy in the moment of that. So what do you do with this? What do you do with your light, happy alien painting? You could share it in our group where no one will make fun of you, and you can share your own stories and stuff. Anything that's not mean. As long as you're not making fun of nobody else, I don't mind. But nothing mean. But like share your own stories,
Yeah.
And your own paintings and
your paintings. We like to see
of
the
this
paintings.
painting and come by. We're a good place to share first painting with. That's what the group is for, is to share paintings that you do with me. It's Art Sherpa Official. If you want to come by Discord, you can do that. Got TikTok, got Instagram and Twitter if you're still over there, and Pinterest and Facebook, all places that you can share. So lots of places. You could also just email me directly and share your work. Definitely hit that subscribe button. If this was fun or funny, this isn't the first. I actually did do a more involved Aurora Borealis spaceship abducting a cow.
That's right. That was a really good one.
And I got a camper with his dog. You could actually put a whole series that like told a story of an alien abduction with the stuff that I painted. And I'll probably paint more fun, goofy things like this. Like when I'm like, oh, a Sasquatcher yet. Probably will. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss those fun paintings when they come up, because they'll be free and they'll be fun. And also, know that you're okay and you've got art family here. And if you ever want to come by and just unplug for a second and hang out with your art friends and chat, in a live chat and have a good time, we are here and the door is open and we are always waiting for you. And if you're wondering what I meant, Midnight Burger, that is a podcast. It is my favorite podcast right now. And I'll shout them out. They're not a sponsor. They don't even know I exist. I'm a sponsor to them, though.
That's true.
I patron them.
That's true.
But hopefully I haven't checked to see if the card updated, so I better go check it. If I'm not currently, because my card updated, I will be again in a second. But I think it's a wonderful, fun, imaginative podcast. So if you enjoyed Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Doctor Who and those types of things, chances are you will like Midnight Burger quite a lot. And it has this kind of a, I feel, in my opinion, it has this kind of a vibe.
Yep.
So that's what that was. And other than that, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and I'll see you in an easel really soon. Bye-bye.